let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let me.
Well, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave, back in the real cave, the battle station cave. No more igloo for me, but it was really fucking fun, man. Had a really great time watching some northern lights, doing a little bit of snowboarding, and holy shit, man, just experiencing the northern parts of Finland, an absolutely beautiful country, actually, which I really needed as well, man. It just, I don't know, man, it just helps to kind of take a step back and put yourself in a different environment every once in a while to gain more perspective. Anyways, a lot to come back to, a lot to kind of update on, and a shit ton to talk about today. First and foremost, I should say that the Krown trading application is live. However, I will also say that it is quite basic right now. There's only a couple screens ready. The first main screen detailing all the different exchanges and in big orders and dominance and open interest and all that good stuff. Plus, now we've added a whole news section, like not a news section, but an event section. Perhaps is better spoken right there on that first main page. And of course, with each and every passing week, we're going to be adding more and more to it. So definitely go check it out, as it's 100% free. It's at app.crowntrading.net, and really fucking proud of it, man. So, or also girls or any other genders that may be listening right now. So want to be offering that up. Anyways, Jesus Christ, man, came back and found out that Kobe Bryant and his daughter had died. That is just, I mean, quite a shock to me, man. I don't want to like get on a high horse and make it about myself or anything like that, because I think that that's a little bit sickening when I see a lot of other people doing it on like the social media venues. But holy shit, you know, one of the things that really stuck with me about Kobe Bryant, you know, regardless of even basketball, is one thing that he said after, I think it was like in 2016 or something like that. He was basically saying something that had been on my mind for a long time. He said something along the lines of, and I think that this is really fucking powerful. He said something along the lines of championships come and go, and it's like, I've always thought that, you know, it's like, you know, you win the championship, and for those of you who don't know, Kobe Bryant is like one of the best basketball players of all time. Which is probably going to cause a whole fucking massive argument in the discussion section. It's not what this is about. But my point is that, you know, each and every year, you win a championship, and like, it's what's next. It's like, there's just a next one, right? You're only champion for a little bit of time, and then the show must go on. But what he said next was so fucking powerful, because what he says is, it's not even about that. Championships come and go. But what you can do in getting that, in doing something amazing like that, is you can inspire others. And Kobe Bryant certainly inspired a shit ton of people, myself included, because he had this very, very specific mentality of just going all the fuck in. Like, if you watch that guy play, he was 100% in all the goddamn time. And that is, and him putting words on that phenomenon really kind of stood with me. So I don't know, I just wanted to kind of repeat that, because, well, I don't know, maybe someone else can benefit from it out there. And with all of that said, I'll stop talking about all of my shit, and let's talk about some goddamn Magic Net money business. Because first and foremost, I would like to wish you the best of the best and the happiest of the happiest, because why the fuck not, man? And let's get into live stream right in over here as I initiate that teleportation and get back into the swing of things. Anyways, Bitcoin on the daily, getting that northern road that we spoke about yesterday, and initiating those first set of targets that we also spoke about, well, over the last couple of days. And of course, when does it happen? Around the time that CMEs happen. So typically weekend, more or less sideways action, testing the more preliminary range. And to get that, we need to go back down to low time frames right here. So I kind of want to, discuss what we've already discussed, but then just see how it extrapolates going onwards and forwards, because that's a true value in something like this. Because obviously, I'm not going to be live during like all these fucking moves and shit like that. But what was Bitcoin doing in the early morning over the weekend? We were just hanging out in this range right here. That's all weekends typically are. That's why I'm very happy to be playing support and resistance on a weekend more often than not. Yes, sometimes there are big breaks. I do think that is more rare, and it's typically on like major inflection points on the market as well. Not always, but I have noticed that if it does even happen. So the critical thing that we were looking at coming into essentially CME's opening yesterday night was this level right here, right around 8,500. I was saying that I am biased to the upside here as long as Bitcoin's above 8,200 on a daily total closing basis, and as long as it's above about 8,150 on a 4-hour total closing basis. And to me, this is constructive behavior. This is fine. This is all well and dandy. And the critical thing that we were looking for yesterday night was a close above either this horizontal right here, or just a tick above 85.15. And this is going to have so much more downstream applications to what we're going to talk about later on in this video, so keep this one in mind. As you know, what happens after we took out that? Well, target up to the blue box territory was initiated, and where do we find ourselves at? Well, right in that fucking blue box territory. So I'm sure all the people who are looking at this as a falling wedge or something like that are going to be saying, holy shit, falling wedge revealed to the upside, resolved to the upside, and we're going to be going back up to 9,000 today. I don't know so much about that, but what I do think is just going level by level, very, 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 very deductive trading style here. Not the most sexy of all time, but it gets the fucking job done at the end of the day. And what am I looking at right here? I do think that Bitcoin's probably going to make another foray attempt into the top side of this blue box territory, but then I'd be looking for a low time frame consolidation, probably bringing us back down somewhere into this area right here. And I'd still remain overall bullish and overall fine on this price action, essentially as long as we just maintain this last level that we just, well, broke out of at 8,500. So all is well and good as far as I'm concerned on Bitcoin. Lower timeframes are getting a little bit tired here on the momentum oscillators. We do see that 4-hour Stokes getting way up there, not crossing down just yet. 3-hour Stokes, same thing, coming from the same territory. 2-hour Stokes going to be coming from the exact same territory as well, and hourly as well. And I know that that's going to bring up some sort of a comment like, why are you looking at all these lower timeframes if they're going to be telling you the same thing? Because they don't always. And when they do tell you the same thing, it's usually a damn good, indication. So I would be looking for a little bit of a cool off period, probably coming into the middle of today. Today meaning Monday, and Bitcoin probably resets itself and maybe comes back down to like 85.50ish region. Would look like a fine little pullback here. Overall though, that's not the important thing. The important thing here, and the next big trade for Bitcoin, and what's most important about that last closure that we saw on the weekly that closed yesterday at 7 p.m. Eastern time on spot price action, is that it offers up a very, 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 very easy trade going forwards here. So again, with all of that in mind that we just spoke about, let's take it one step further. On the weekly, Bitcoin put in, it's not, we're taking on the fucking identity of Bitcoin, Jesus Christ. Bitcoin had a very nice bounce off the yellow 20 exponential moving average. What have we been speaking about for the last week or two about this? Well, whenever Bitcoin is using the 21, this yellow moving average on the weekly, and has a positive slope on that same moving average, that is, in the past, during Bitcoin's all of Bitcoin's straight upwards market, essentially. It doesn't mean that Bitcoin just goes like a rocket ship to the moon, but a nice uptrend over a long period of time typically is established. I shouldn't say typically, like every time, but we've seen that actually going all the way back on over here. Bitcoin likes to base off that yellow 21 exponential moving average on the weekly, and again, whenever it has a positive slope, that is extra confirmation on that fact. And whenever Bitcoin's kind of living below it, or it has a negative slope, that is when the less fun times for the Bitcoin blue laws are happening as well. And just kind of back testing it right here. I'm not really going to point it out exactly because you can kind of see it for yourself, and I'll trust that you'll do that. But looking at this last price action, the reason why that closure was so damn important is because we have once again bounced off the yellow 21 exponential moving average, using it as support. And I would say that this is a positive slope on the 21 exponential moving average, and more importantly, we do have a positive slope now as well on the 10 simple. So contrary to what we saw right in over here, where Bitcoin was above the 21, it kind of got it flattened out. It wasn't positive, it wasn't really negative, it was flat, but the 10 simple was negative the whole way through. Well, that was your key critical moment that was, going to just be another failed attempt. This one over here looks a lot different to me. And the next sort of piece of the puzzle for the long term would be a couple things. So I want to see the red 10 simple cross the upside of that yellow 20 exponential moving average. I mean, that is, again, sort of like the third or fourth piece that you see in all of these long-term upwards markets. 10 simple above the 21, lower period above the higher period. You already know that intuitively to mean that the trend is strengthening to the upside, and both having a positive slope looks damn good to me. Not only that, but to make this, and I keep on kind of kiting around my own words here as the main focus. I keep on sidestepping. Here it is. And if you want to turn the videos off after this, I mean, and you're a little bit more long-term minded, this would be it. With this closure that we saw yesterday, again, on Sunday, this offers up very, very easy classical trade to be made. Whichever way that we break from this doji-ish type dildo right here, again, a high of about 8,800, a low of about 8,200 is likely going to be our next, $1,000 plus direction, something like that. If we break to the upside, if we just even tick above the upside, which again would be on stamp at about 8,800. On Mexico, it would be about 8,800 as well. So I'm going to imagine it's consistent amongst most major exchanges. I would look for extension over the next couple weeks, month, whatever it is, as we are coming into a new monthly at the end of this week, up to this last prior high on the weekly, which is absolutely fucking critical, because remember, Bitcoin's weeklies, not just, and now kind of divorcing this from the moving averages, but as well keeping that in mind, because they all have interplay with each other. Bitcoin's weekly trend has always been, since the inception of Bitcoin, the best way to get those major massive moves, both to the upside and the downside. Anytime that we've had a confirmed reversal, those are your 70% moves to the downside and your 100x plus percent moves to the upside. In some cases, 1,000x, which is just fucking crazy. So if Bitcoin does initiate, does take out that last weekly high and gets back to about 9,500, I do think that we test around there. It's going to have, my point is that it's going to have a chance to actually confirm a macro uptrend on the weekly. And at that point, I just generally be bullish for a move back up into the 5 digits, probably somewhere right around 11.5, 12,000-ish bucks is where the next major, battle will be fought. As far as the higher timeframes go, of course, the lower timeframes are going to go to and fro. And that kind of changes around the more long-term picture, which we'll get into in the monthly a little bit later on this video, because the monthly is going to be closing in the next 4 days on Friday. Anyways, by the same token, if we do take out the downside of it at 8,200, which is still very much possible, I actually don't think that is going to happen myself, but it's very much possible. If that did happen, I would look for, at the very least, to move down to the 10 simple at around 7,750 to 7,800-ish region, probably a bounce there, and then I'd look for a continuation back down somewhere into the lower 7,000 region, between about 72 to 7,300, and I'd actually be looking for Bitcoin to probably put in a low there. I'm actually not bearish on Bitcoin long term, especially as long as we are, especially as long as we're doing this over here, but especially from a trending perspective, as long as it is not making lower lows below this like 71, 7,200-ish low on a weekly total closing basis. That does mean that it can't come all the way back down here, but I actually would be looking for it to put in another base into this region if that were to happen, and construct a more long-term reversal from this region. And of course, if Bitcoin were to break this region, then yeah, we can talk about a move all the way down to like mid 5,000s perhaps. But for right now, I don't think that that's the most likely thing to happen. Looking at weekly momentum oscillators, we do see that weekly Stokes are actually gaining more and more momentum to the upside, and more importantly, they have actually officially broken that same area that we broke down from in middle of September, where Bitcoin took essentially reversed the weekly trend, right? Reversed it from 10.3 getting my words mixed up. Reverse the trend right here by breaking below 10.3 and creating a downtrend is what I'm trying to say. So that'd be a change of behavior. And then also on top of that, we are going to be testing the edge of the bearish control zone on this next weekly close. Not only that, but weekly RSI being resilient in this region as well. I really potentially like this, but more importantly, what I really want to see is the weekly RSI get above this blue box territory in like the 55, 56 marker right here, as that has been your proverbial bullish and bearish markets. Again, since the genesis of Bitcoin, anytime that we're below, generally, those are your downwards markets. You can back test this one again for yourself. And every time that we're up and we base upon that, that is your bullish marks, and essentially some of the best buy points for those bullish dumps, if you want to call it that. Talking about this area right here. Talking about this whole rally right here, this whole downtrend right here, this whole downtrend right here, and this small one right here. So all of that getting it quite accurately, and more importantly, it does look like Bitcoin's going to give a legitimate test to this region probably by end of week. And so all these things coincided with each other, which I really, really like, because if it does actually get taken out, it really does help set in the long-term macro, which I think is what most people are probably looking for. I understand that most people probably aren't trading lower timeframes or aren't even day trading to begin with. They just want to be told that Bitcoin's going to the moon, and well, an uptrend on the weekly would be a good start for that. Anyway, speaking of the lower trend timeframes, do you think that we probably, like I said, I do think that we pull back here a little bit, maybe down to like 8550-ish region, 8500-ish region. I don't really have a strong opinion on that, but I do think that, as long as we're using 8500 as a pivot, completely fine. If Bitcoin were to break back down below it, I would look for a move down to about 8250-ish region, 8300, somewhere in this region, test around the blue box territory again. But remember, I do not get bearish even from a daily perspective until the daily is closing well below that region, which is now actually even protected by about $100 above on the yellow 20-month exponential moving average for the daily. So looking okay here, and realistically the range is from the medium time frames, which has so much implications, so much downwards implications for what we spoke about on the higher time frames. If you want to just simplify this one step further, is the daily 200 simple to the upside, and the daily 20-minute exponential moving average to the downside. Any sort of a daily total close above the 200 simple moving average right here. We got new highs on the weekly, we got new highs on the daily. We're still in an uptrend. This would be considered essentially another higher low, which it does look like a higher low right now. The question is, are we going to go set in a higher high? And if that higher high gets set in, I would target that next move towards, again, 9,500, bringing everything full circle here once again. Anyways, looking at this, I do think that it's very important to follow up on yesterday's video as well, because one of the big focuses was the 12-hour right here, which there's a lot to be said about this as well. So now we're kind of going into the more nitty gritty of this, doing it for the TA autists, which I'm the fucking biggest TA autist myself. So I'm, not an insult to anyone. But the 12-hour soaks right here looking pretty damn good. Crossing the upside early in the morning, early in Sunday. Oh, well, Sunday's closed essentially, and getting momentum to the upside. So I do like that. Again, I really hate to say something as simplistic as this, but blindly trading those has been phenomenally successful over the last couple of years, or at least a year and a half, from what I remember. More importantly, though, this is coming alongside, and this is again why I was having that bias to the upside this past couple of weeks, but more recently coming off this area, because we're seeing those momentum oscillators cross back up to the upside as the 12-hour golden cross gets more and more divergence away from each other on the 55 and the 200. Yes, I do know that it can be a little bit different. Yep, it's all the same fucking thing, man. 5 periods is not gonna make any fucking difference. And more importantly, that's telling us that that this golden cross is likely to be efficacious. It's likely to work out, and the more and more divergence that we get away from each other on these two guys, the stronger it the stronger it will be. Not only that, but we do see that we're kind of forming some sort of a formation here. We're in some sort of a consolidation. We do see the signature of a consolidation area-ish type volume signature right here, which actually probably does break. This would be the 27th, 28th. So probably in these next 2 days, we actually do see a breakout of this range. Meaning that I think that we're actually going to see the weekly break before end of week, most likely. We will have clarities on that early situation, whether it's up above 8,800 or below 8,200. I do think that we actually get that this week. So this week should be pretty damn fun, especially considering that the month is going to be closing later as well. Anyways, more importantly, speaking of the efficacy of this cross longer term, we do see that the 12-hour golden cross and death cross, really, really good for Bitcoin's history. Blindly trading it, while the entries might not have been like picture perfect, the trend, very, 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 very good. This golden cross takes you all the way from 4 to 14. This death cross takes you all the way from like 11 to 31. This golden cross over here takes you all the way through like 3 years. We have a couple one-offs in 2014, 2015, but even these one-offs, which were essentially fake outs, did produce at the outset a nice move. This one over here about 23% to the upside, even though it did end up failing. And this one over here a little bit better, I believe, if I remember. Yeah, about 25.5% to the upside before failing. Now, if we were to even just add 20% off from this crossy area right here, I'm curious where that would kind of put us at. Just to put it in perspective, 20% on top of what we're looking at right now would actually put us back into the basically back at 5 digits, and obviously create a higher high on the weekly as well. So that would be a big deal. Anyways, I just wanted to speak directly to that because we're seeing these guys gain momentum away from each other as momentum oscillators turn up on these time frames, which I really, really like. More importantly, we're going to see I shouldn't say very soon, but we're going to see, we will see the 12-hour golden cross on the CME's chart, which I think is much, 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 much more important than spot chart, because you get a lot less fake outs with the signals given. It will inevitably happen as long as Bitcoin essentially defends 8,200-ish low, or even just as long as it just doesn't tick below essentially where you see this alert is, funnily enough, it's perfectly there. And also in line with the 200 exponential moving average on the daily right here. And the more airtime that we get, the more and more closely these guys are going to be pulled together. And if we got the golden cross on the 12-hour, that would be a lot better than just getting on spot and add to the validity of it. Not only that, we're going to see 12-hour Stokes probably start to curl around relatively soon, and we do see that 12-hour RSI is kind of stair-stepping its way up, although do still think that we test this trend line at some point, which is rising over time. So the longer that it stays away from it, the higher that it will get. And that's, just creates more basis of support. Anyways, what else do we want to talk about? Haven't even talked about volatility today. I'd imagine that we are going to see the lower time frames get very close. Also very important, funnily enough, the daily golden cross on CMEs is a lot more close than the 12-hour. And the daily, obviously, a lot more powerful as well. And if we do get the golden cross on it, which I would say probably happens by about Tuesday, Wednesday, assuming that we don't see any sort of a move back below 8,200, well, I would be looking for, at the very least, a test back up to about 8,950, 9,000 bucks. Let's see how spot's doing on this one. Spot's getting a little bit closer as well, but not quite there. We do see that historic volatility percentile is extremely low here. Very, 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 very comparative to a lot of the last major moves that we've seen, coming from this sort of a standpoint. You know, talking about the January move right here, talking about the mid-September dump right here, talking about a March pump right here coming out of the last bear market to bull market. You know, you get the idea. These are major inflection points whenever we print this low on volatility on a higher time frame like the daily. And the lower time frames should help us time this next move coming up relatively soon. And lower time frames actually put in a little bit of bearish divergence. Also, kind of, well, actually, you don't really see it on Mexico, but you do see it on Stamp. Strange. Very rarely will you see something like that, a disagreement between the two. But it does look like it's kind of acting as such. We still see actually contraction on the hourly. What about the 2 hour? What about the bi-hourly? Still contracting as well. 3 hour going to be contracting. 4 hour contracting. So what does that tell me? It tells me that we likely back off here a little bit, probably trade back down and set in another higher low on the 4 hour. And then from there, let's go back on over to BitMexico over here. And then from there, I'd be looking for it to get picked up once again and probably try to the upside as soon, as assuming that the momentum also is cool off a fair bit. So yeah, wrapping all up now as we're only about 20 minutes in, which this has actually been a phenomenally fast video. I want to quickly talk about the lower time frame ranges once again, and then we'll match it up with the expected moves chart. And then maybe look at a couple top shitcoins and call it a day. Anyways, looking at this right here, we do see that, again, this blue box territory encompassing the range between about 86.50 and about 87.50. Sort of the next resistance territory. Our more preliminary supports coming in right around about 8,500. I don't really have a super strong opinion on where this pullback brings it back down to. I think 8,500 would be fine. 8,550 would be fine. As long as it doesn't break this area, I do think that it gets reaccumulated and sets in a higher low and then gives another try to the upside. And any sort of a 4 hour to close, especially above this last little kind of stutter step right here at about 80, a little bit above 87.30-ish region. And I would look for extension to the 200 simple on the daily, which is going to be about 89.50-ish region. And at that point, things really start to take that more long-term downstream effect as we spoke about earlier. So that's why I was covering all of that, because they're all going to be related to each other. And with volatility kind of tightening up like this and getting damn low, we're almost in single digits once again. I would say that this is lining up for a pretty nice move relatively soon. Probably in the next less than 48 hours, I'd say. If I had to pester again on this one. Also, volume signature saying about the same thing as well, coming into a climax somewhere around here. So yeah, about another day perhaps, at least on my Finnish watch. Anyways, so yeah. Let's see how that matches up with the expected move chart right on over here. And we do see that, yes, the odds are certainly in the favor of the upside, because look at this. The edge of the first standard deviation to the downside is actually well above that critical 8,200-ish number. It's at 8,400 right now, which is kind of out of no man's land. I mean, I guess it'd be right around here, I suppose. Does make sense. We do have a nice little liquid zone right there, to be fair. But no more than like a low time frame kind of pivot, and the critical level still at 8,200, which is pretty much almost consistent with the second standard deviation to the downside. So less than a 2.5% chance that we actually do break to the downside today, to be fair. More importantly, to the upside, we do see that the first standard deviation is actually all the way at 88.50. So that's well above this next preliminary resistance right here. So I think that this is only just a low time frame thing. And I mean, fucking obviously, right? And more importantly, that if Bitcoin can actually close above it in the next day or two, should see a move back up here to 89.50, and that can have the fun effects leading on downstream. More importantly, remember, and this is again bringing everything full circle here. Remember, the weekly is the key right now. The weekly is the key. If Bitcoin even just trades above the last weekly high, and this is preferably I'd want to see it close. Even on a daily would be good enough, but I do think that even if we just trade back above it, then uptrend continues to the upside. Fucking obviously, how redundant can you be, Krown, you moron? But my point is that last weekly high is where? It's actually a few bucks below 8,800. Well, where's the top side of the first deviation right here? The interval that's most likely to happen. 88.50, 88.60 actually right now. So it is it's really difficult to get the actual probability exactly for that price point, but it'd probably be somewhere around like 20%, 20 to 25% if I had to guess. I wonder if Bolly's listening to this and he could just whip me in shape and say, hey, no, it's actually like 29.5. It's like, sounds even better. But my point is that that's actually within the first deviation, contrary to the downside, which is actually well outside of the first deviation right here. So that would be less than, realistically less than like a 2.5% chance down here because it's more around the second. But to the upside, well within those bounds. So it is, I do think that it's actually, I should say that it's the right terminology would be more likely here. And to put a percentage chance on that, well, if we're looking at the first standard deviation, then one side of that's going to be about 34%, and then we're taking like half that to the upside. It would be I'm like really doing some bad math right now. So maybe around like 15 to 20% that we actually do take out the last weekly high today. And of course, if Bitcoin just trades sideways here a little bit, those rings should naturally actually squeeze back up to the upside, increasing the probability that actually happens tomorrow or Tuesday or Wednesday. Okay, cool. So we spoke about all of that. What else do we want to talk about? We can talk about a couple of top shitcoins really, really quick. We got Mr. Buter all over here, basically doing the same thing as Bitcoin. Let's see if anything's more obvious here. Daily does look constructive. Probably gets another move back up to test around 172.5. Litecoin, same chart here as well. They're all going to do the same thing. They all look the fucking same to me. Bunch of lazy altcoins. Had enough of these bitches stealing our gerbs. Well, if Bitcoin moves back up, I'd probably be looking for it to tag around like 59 or 59.5 bucks. Again, they all move together. I think Bitcoin's a little bit easier to read right now. If this one does break down, I'd be looking for a full move back down at like 53.5 bucks. Same thing on Bitcoin at like 8,200. Not good. What about Ripple Me Nipples? Less strong, certainly. Still kind of struggling on the daily, actually. What about EOS? EOS looking better than the rest, actually. EOS actually being one of the more healthy actors here. Next major region, right around 390. NEO, what do we see? Weak on the weaker side. Tron Cash, what do we got? Kind of a little bit of a nice falling channel right here. Technically, or not technically, but typically breaks to the upside. But again, Bcash actually acting a lot better than most. Zcash, kind of in the middle, par for the course, I suppose. Anyways, because it is Monday, we don't have anything to update on GBTC or SPY or anything like that, as they're not open just yet. But we can go look at gold for a second. 1575. Holy fucking moly. Look at that, baby. Look at that. We did hit the top side of the resistance once again, 1575, as we said. And today it's actually going to have a chance to close above. Looking okay to me. And if it does happen, I'd probably be looking for another move into this blue box territory right here. Keep in mind, all the people who were very, very bearish on this, coming off this rejection right here. No, that's classic. That's classic. It was very likely that we're going to get another test in this region. What happens now is what is more of a question mark to me. So I'd wait for that one to confirm, but so far, okay. What else we have for the forexes? Dollar yen coming down a lot more than what I was expecting here. Coming all the way down to basically to the 200 simple right here, but still still kind of holding this long-term rising channel, which typically does break out to the downside, to be fair. Let's see, what is a weekly looking like? I don't have a strong read on this one. I don't think I have a strong read on this one. I'll refrain from saying anything. Pound yen, holy shit, man, massive rejection to close out the week. This one, did we take out last week's high? We did. Holy shit, this is just so brutal. Holy fuck, man. Oh my god. So it did close above, closed above, did not get the move. So I was actually looking for a move to 146.1 if we got this close above. Did not happen, obviously, but still kind of following the uptrend overall. So I'd still give it a chance, but weird things going on here. I would refrain from saying anything specific on that as well, because I don't think that I have a good idea there. My main idea just got absolutely shattered. Euro dollar hitting our target to the downside, 110. 110 pretty much met. I do think that we probably have a little bit more here to go. But the breakdown is slowly but surely. It's like a molasses breakdown. I think that we're gonna get another swipe of this low right here, a little bit below 110, and probably bounce a little bit and then come back and reassess. But the long-term downtrend is still very much intact. I mean, this is a nasty chart. What else do we have? I'm sure a million people are gonna ask about Link. It looks the same as everything else, but actually Link's stronger here. Link's stronger here. next critical region about 34,000 satoshis, assuming that Bitcoin can keep it together and give it that next test the upside in the coming days. Anyways, to wrap up Bitcoin over here. Realistically, I'll just focus on the lower time frames, but always keep in mind how that relates to the higher term time frames. And what do we see? Blue box territory being met, that target being met from the last couple of days. I would expect, maybe another move into this region, maybe not. I'm not so confident on that. I do think that Bitcoin will pull back a little bit from this region, maybe down to like 8,550, 8,500. But as long as Bitcoin does not violate 8,500, I'd look for it to get reaccumulated, set in a higher low, and then give another legitimate attempt to break above this area right here, above 87, let's call it like 8730-ish region. And if that does happen, I would look for a run all the way up to 8950. Remember though, that would very obviously be well above where the last weekly high was. So at that point, it does start to look a lot more like continuation of me to the upside. So I'm not really expecting something like that to happen today, but keep it in mind if price action does start screaming. So with all of that said, of course, downside, I think it's a little bit less likely, but fair enough. Should cover it. Any sort of a closure below 8,500, especially even on like a 2 hour, probably not good. Even a 2 hour below like 85.25 region probably doesn't look too hot to me. And I'd look for a full on move down to about 8,300, maybe even 8,200, somewhere in this pocket down here. And Bitcoin probably tries to bounce off the blue box territory just once again. And then we'll come back and reassess after that. If the bounce is weak, if the bounce fails to get back above essentially 8,500, then we can talk about the downside targets, which 7750 probably bounce there, and then further continuation on to the lower 7,000. Anyways, that's going to do it for right now. I want to wish everyone well once again, and well, fair enough, man. And also other genders listening right now as I search for my words, man. Still a little bit, pondering the whole Kobe Bryant thing. It's a lot to think about, really. Anyways. Take care, and I'll be on Twitch later tonight. Forgot to talk about that. Assuming that something catastrophic doesn't happen. Last time we had something catastrophic happen, the fucking Discord got raided by a bunch of giveaway bots or some shit. So yeah, man, we're doing our best to kind of ban all these people, but it's a fucking impossible job. There's literally like thousands of them in there. But slowly but surely they are being weeded out. And I think for whatever reason, a lot of people are kicked from the Discord. Don't really know why, but yeah, you're not banned or anything like that. Just feel free to join back in on the link below in the description of this video. And with that said, take care, and until next time.